Hi Rahul.
Hello, Ravi.
Hi. Good evening. Welcome to Atria University, and it's a pleasure of your experience in this net zero. And we know you from my IESA days also.
Mm.
Just we want to have a few glimpses on the futuristic technologies, mainly on your worked across global platforms and led efforts in battery manufacturing, mobility, and clean technology. What do you think is India's biggest opportunity in achieving the net zero transition?
Sure. So, first of all, Ravi, thank you. It has been a pleasure to visit the campus because we have been talking a lot, but actually seeing here, seeing the kind of infrastructure you are building, the kind of partnerships what you are building with industry, I think that is really amazing, and that is what is required for us to achieve this net zero transition. In terms of India's opportunity, I think there are sky's the limit because the India's advantage right now is that as an economy we are growing and we are forecasted to continues to grow for next 15 20 years. We have on verge of becoming the third largest economy, and there is a push from government for increasing domestic manufacturing. There is a push for government for increasing the renewable penetration. Government has already identified areas like e-mobility as one of the key areas where they are looking at India taking a lead, particularly for reducing the foreign exchange outflow for oil. We are also seeing that the way India's urbanization is happening, actually India could even lead in areas such as urban air mobility, where actually the economics works better with the kind of population density we have in India. India has already started doing a lot of things on the e-commerce side, where actually the innovation is now coming from India in terms of even
Yes,
looking at 10-minute delivery and other thing. And although people may have different views on it, I think in the back end there is a lot of things in terms of the
yes,
automation, warehousing, the entire supply chain
correct,
that makes sense. And the good part about the way the energy transition is happening is that if you have use cases where there is a significant usage, then even new technologies can get adopted. Many times people think that, oh, India should be like a follower, India should follow certain technologies after they are mass commercialized and they are deployed already around the globe. In fact, the way I like to see these technologies is that if there is a value, you can actually look at it even at a higher cost, you can deploy if you are able to capture that value. And right
correct,
now, with the pace at which India is growing, I think there are so many opportunities which are available to us. We can actually capture that and take a lead on it. But we
great.
don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to build
Yes,
partnerships,
yes,
and
yes,
that's where, because time is of essence. Because every year we are delaying adoption. Every year we are delaying some of the manufacturing or R&D scale up.
yes,
We
yes,
are falling further behind in the race. So
correct.
somewhere we need to, as Dr. Mashelkar said, we need to pole vault, where we need to use existing tools available so that we are
Yes,
going on a different stratosphere rather than just looking at incremental innovation and progress. That will anyway happen.
correct.
Through Netra, we are trying to see how countries like India can actually pole vault and how we can bring at least 10 companies from the network where in 2035 they are actually providing solutions at a global scale,
Okay.
which is having a positive impact on climate change uh, at a scale where it matters. It is not about just building few more unicorns. It is about how you can actually
Yes,
build the next Teslas or CATLs
correct, correct,
in
correct. In
next 10
India,
years.
great. As a founder of Netra and a long-time leader in energy storage, what technologies or trends excite you the most in the next, say, for the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure. Uh, so I see there are many technologies, including renewables. So say
Okay.
wind, solar, those have now commercialized. At the same time, there is still improvement happening, like in
Yes.
terms of solar, the efficiency improvements, looking at perovskite or other improvements.
Yeah.
In terms of the wind turbine, going to 5-10 megawatt turbines, going
Correct.
for
Correct.
offshore wind turbines. Energy storage is definitely closer to my heart, where the improvements keep on happening. People have some debate about, okay, do we need to look for only next generation technology, whereas the way I see it is lithium ion is a family, it is not a single technology.
Correct.
With lithium ion also, a lot of research which has happened and improvements which have happened in last 10 years have happened primarily on the cathode side. Now people are looking at number of different things, including additives, looking at anode side
Yeah.
improvement, looking at silicon doping, going to complete
Yes.
silicon, going to lithium metal. So the way I see it is, even within lithium ion family, there is almost like more than double the improvements are possible, and there is already a very clear pathway. So lithium ion definitely is part of it, but at the same time, sodium
Yeah.
ion, aluminum ion,
Yes.
there are many other right now
Correct.
technologies which are in early stage. But the key challenge is going to be, there are many technologies which have been around at lab scale now for last 20-30 years,
Yes.
but they haven't been able to scale up in terms of the manufacturing.
Yes. Till
So
they
through
have to come up to
Netra's,
the application level.
yeah,
Yeah.
application level, and need to figure out. So
Yeah.
many times what happens is, when we do R&D, the entire discussion revolves around TRL levels, the
Correct.
technology readiness level, and there is a lot of effort now happening where how do we take technologies. Typically academics earlier used to focus on getting from idea to maybe TRL 4 or TRL 5,
Correct.
but now there is a lot more, I think, attention in even academia to see if the research can actually go to TRL 7, 8, or possibly even 9. There are
Yes.
programs like UNIDO, FLCTD, and others which are supporting that transition. But the way I see it is, this is only part of the puzzle. You need to also start understanding, and you need to actually educate researchers to think about manufacturing readiness level,
Yes.
because a lot of
MRL.
things you can do when you're doing prototype, you are doing one-off thing, you can do handmade, you can do custom
Correct.
materials,
Correct.
but if you cannot scale it up at hundreds or thousands of ton level production, how are you going to bring the
Correct.
product to the masses?
Yeah.
How are you
Yeah.
going to maintain? How are you going to do servicing,
Yes.
warranties,
Yes. Yes.
financing, the supply chain? All of that needs to be seen. And again, that is not the end of it. That is a critical piece of it, manufacturing readiness level. The other one is market readiness level, where you need to see, is the customer ready? Does the
Yeah.
customer have a real problem which the technology is solving?
Yeah.
It should not be a technology looking for a solution. The technologies need to be developed for solving a pain point for a customer. And the other area is, you also need to understand that if there are any policy barriers which may be unintended,
Yeah.
which do exist, which you need to solve. Many times all these three, TRL, MRL, and market readiness levels, are seen as a series activity. That's where every phase ends up taking like a 10-15 year time, and ultimately we end up losing 30-40 years for trying to
Correct.
commercialize.
Correct.
And many
Correct.
times it happens as, it's not a single horse race, right? There are multiple technologies coming in.
Yes.
So
Yes.
sometimes I've seen that technologies have progressed on their own pathway, and people should be proud of that. But at the same time, if someone else is coming in and actually taking over, it doesn't matter if you have a greatest landline phone anymore, right? If there is a
Yes.
smartphone available as a cell phone which
Yeah.
changes the game, no one is going to buy a landline just because it is a better
Correct.
landline.
Correct.
So that's where you need to again start realizing that it is not about just your own technology, but what is required by the customer, who are the competitors, how they are evolving, and somewhere you need to pivot. So there
Correct.
is this concept of fail fast, fail often. So that's something which we need to adopt. And in India particularly, we need to get away from this culture of blaming the people who try early and fail. We need to
Yes.
actually encourage such thing. We
Yes.
need to
Yes.
encourage them to apply their learning from the failure, so that next time they can be
Yes.
successful. That, I think,
Yes.
cultural change, if we can do in
Yes.
India, that would be amazing.
Great. So you recently visited the Battery Engineering Center of Excellence at Atria University. So what are your impressions, and how important is this kind of hands-on project-based learning for the future of clean tech innovation?
Sure. So this is actually the sort of a missing piece, and I'm glad that Atria and few of the other universities are now trying to solve this problem, because I started my career back in late 90s when the Y2K boom was there, when the
Okay.
India's IT industry started to take place. So I related to that, where IT industry gave up on the academia, where they said that no, the academia is not bringing in the students of the caliber or with the knowledge what we need for IT
Yes.
industry. It doesn't matter. We are going to retrain everyone who we hire. They need to have some basic intellect and some logical capability. Rest we will take care. And every IT company, be it Infosys, be it TCS or Mahindra and other, built a huge training campuses where they almost were training all of us for 3 months, 6 months, depending on the type of the project, and almost retraining and considering that as part and parcel of the project. Given the profit margins in IT business, that was possible.
Mhm.
I don't think energy sector or any deep tech sector can afford that. So we desperately need it, so that when students are spending 4 year, 6 year, 8 year learning certain skill set at undergrad or postgrad level at universities, they are industry ready. That is the biggest gap right now in the industry.
Yes.
And I
Exactly.
think the kind of setup what you are building, I think it's a perfect step. And I hope that through Netra, we can help you in continuing to expand it and make sure that you are building capabilities which are are really meeting the requirement of the industry. Because if we do that and if we can start saving time, that is the biggest help which can help industry move forward.
Certainly. Great. And you have supported startups, investors, and governments in scaling technologies.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young engineers like our students passing out and entrepreneurs trying to make an impact in clean energy, especially?
Yeah. So I would say that don't go with a hype. You need to understand the sector. You need to understand the
Yes.
problem. That is the first thing I would say, that if any of the young engineers who are listening, if it helps you, that first try to understand what is a problem, understand the technology, and then start seeing how the technology can be applied, instead of just getting infatuated with the technology and then try to find a solo problem to solve. Because that again can be done. It's not that it cannot be done, but typically it is a harder path to do, unless you have a unlimited funding and you have a 10-year timeline where you can just wait. Typically most of the times with industry, they are looking for results in 3 years, and if not in 1 year. And 1 year, I think that is, so we need to educate the industry leaders on that, that it is not about when you're looking at innovation, you need to have at least that 3 to 5 year of timeline for doing it. And other thing I would say, that many times I see young entrepreneurs just getting focused on doing pilots. And that is something which I would say, again, one thing if we can avoid in India,
Yes.
is doing mindless pilots. Because many times the pilots are being seen as a way to just showing something to the investor, to say that I'm doing some progress and raise next round of money at a higher valuation, whereas the pilot should have serve a purpose. So this is again advice from Dr. Satish Agnihotri, who was a former secretary at MNRE and who leads the Center for Policy Research at IIT Bombay. So he has been a mentor for last 10 plus years, and he had advised that you need to look at pilots in 3 steps. First step of pilot is for doing technology validation, where focus on getting the technology right, but at the same time you need to work with some customer or some agency,
Yes.
which can provide you a next level platform where you can do 10x deployment, where you can show that the technology which is working can also be scaled up and you can show a cost reduction. And when you meet that, you need to have a third step ready, where you can go another 10x or 100x deployment, so that you can climb the manufacturing thing. If you look at every step as an independent step and just be happy with, oh, now I have bagged a pilot. I've seen so many pilots where after doing the initial photo or initial press release, no one even looks back at what happened with that. The other thing is, you should be open for sharing some of the learning. Obviously there is some confidentiality which you need to maintain, but ultimately it is not just individual company competing with other company. Right now in India especially, we need to build an ecosystem. So if we can learn from each other, any company which succeeds, that will help and create actually enough opportunities for everyone else. So I would say that we need to have sort of a little bit nationalistic spirit, where we are not just competing individually on our individual projects, but we are building an ecosystem and growing together.
I think that was the main reason for only 8 to 9% success in startups
Yeah.
in India.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is a common statistics which gets used in venture capital industry, where generally like 10 in 100 will succeed, or even in some cases people are even ready to bet 1 in 100 in terms of giving the return for their investment. But again, I strongly believe, having worked with almost every top venture capital funded company, be it from Khosla Ventures or Kleiner Perkins or DFJ or Starwood Capital, what I've seen it is that approach which has worked wonder for e-commerce, electronics,
Yes.
telecom sector, is not working for the hard to tech sector. Here I like actually one advice and one outlook which some of the seasoned investors like Vijay Kedia has, where here what he says is that he's not trying to pick a winner and just bet money on the winner. He's trying to pick a good company working in a sector which is a winner, where there is a transition happening like e-mobility, and then as an investor he would provide the resources and support so that the company can grow. I like
Correct.
that approach, and I think
Yes.
that's what is required. Where if you keep on just pray and pray approach, as it is talked about in the venture capital thing, unless you have some special mantra and special prayer, I don't think there is too much hope.
Correct.
And what I'm seeing is that duplicating effort is, I think, again the biggest enemy of it. Right
Yes.
now I'm seeing, like, if you see EV, on some side we can be happy that, oh, we have hundreds or thousands of companies who are starting startups, but at some point we need to see how many of those are succeeding, how they are succeeding. I see so many EV companies where they have not done even 10 or 20
Yes,
prototypes,
exactly.
and they would say, oh, but I'm designing my own battery pack, I'm designing my own BMS, I'm designing my own vehicle control system, because I can do something which is cheaper than a product which someone else is selling me, without realizing that it is not just a bill of material that you need to worry. When ultimately a product is being
Yes,
sold,
exactly.
lot of other costs, including your R&D, including your support, including your marketing,
Yeah.
all those costs needs to be covered by it. So just because you can assemble a product at a cost less than a market product, that's not the end goal, and you should not be wasting your time and energy. You need to focus on some key value addition where you can do, and work with other ecosystem partner. Even big companies like Tata Motors or Toyota and Mahindra, they don't produce everything in house, right?
Yes.
They are working with hundreds of auto component suppliers
Yes.
who are actually working with the company, where for their design, for their specification, they
Yes.
are working. So somewhere if we can create those type of a ecosystem. So in my previous role, I had advocated very much for creating like rapid prototyping centers, where instead of the company which raises 50 million or 100 million spending half of that money in just building a dedicated prototyping center, which is only used for photo ops or just for maybe 10% of the time, if we have institutes like Atria where such facility can be made and made available not just for in-house students, but even for industry to come in and rent out for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, use it, that could actually be a game changer for it. So right now I'm also working with few of the other investors, including like Swapnirik Gogri and others, where I think these type of a concepts across sectors we can deploy. The good part is through programs like ANRF, the DST programs and other, even not just DST, even METI, MHI,
Yes.
all the ministries are ready to support these initiatives. So I think we can have a good public-private partnership. But again, at the same time, with this public-private partnership, I just wish that we have some institutional memory, because we have had number of programs through TIFAC, through Mission Reach, through others for over the years. So we should not be looking at when we are launching some new initiative, this is the first time someone had a great idea.
Exactly.
There is a lot of
Correct.
learning. We should take it and then fix it and then move on from build on top of it.
And so the last question. So with rapid changes in the technology happening and the policies, how important is it for educational institutions to adapt their curriculum and ecosystem to real world challenges like energy transition? Your insights.
So I think it is a non-negotiable, right? The way I see it is, it has to be there, because again, especially now with the way things are happening with AI, with Chat GPT, with other tools,
Correct.
the education is going to change completely. If universities don't change, if they don't adopt, I think at some point students may not need the traditional universities anymore, right? Because there are so many ways in which you can learn. So I think we need to definitely make sure that we are adopting it not to the current changes, but somewhere I wish the universities can actually play a role as a change maker, where they are not just sort of being a follower that, okay, this change has happened and we need to quickly adopt it. Actually, someone needs to be looking at changes which are coming up in next 5 year, 10 year, and then start working with industry, with appropriate government agencies to make sure that we are getting ready for it. For example, say we are talking about quantum computing and other things, right? We cannot wait for developing the training on quantum computing when quantum computing becomes
It's
prevalent.
true.
Somewhere we need to figure out that
Yes.
we are training people so that people are ready and they will actually provide the solutions in building that industry.
Correct.
Same thing with battery manufacturing. We have been talking about battery manufacturing since 2015-16. Now suddenly, when in 2022 people started announcing batteries and other things, we are in 2025, still there is not a
Yes.
single focus
Gigafactory
program
coming
which
in.
is training people for being ready for a
Correct. Correct.
gigafactory operation, and every company is struggling to hire people or workforce from China or other countries. So these are the type of things where it's not that I'm not expecting universities to just keep on launching new programs or something, but this is the area where for almost 10 years we had a foresight that this sector is coming in. And sometimes it may not be, even if the industry doesn't come in India, it's a global market.
Correct.
The way I see it is climate change is a global problem. It needs a global scale solutions for around the globe. And that's where, again, the universities, especially forward-looking universities who are looking at training students who can actually vie for global opportunities, you definitely need to be looking forward and make sure that you are adopting. You need to have some good balance. Obviously, there are certain fundamental skills and things which are timeless and which need to be there. So that thing can remain fixed. That can ensure that The students who are doing it, they have a strong foundation for learning new. But at the same time, some of the new trends are coming in. I wish that we can get the education system away from being a follower to being actually a change maker and a leader.
Thank you. That's
Sure.
great, Dr.
Yes.
Rahul.
Thank
so,
you.
students, you please take care of all the inputs for your better future.